Okay, good. Bhagavad Gita. So far, we've been, a couple of weeks now? About 2 weeks, is it? So about two and a half weeks. We've been doing a text of Viveka Chudamani, Crest Jewel of Discrimination. And that text is for more qualified or advanced people. I know everybody thinks they're advanced. You may be advanced, you may not. You need to know what an advanced or qualified person is. But that text presupposes certain qualifications, and it lists those qualifications which we discussed in some detail about 10 days ago. This Bhagavad Gita is both a Dharma Shastra. Shastra means a scripture on Dharma, on action, how to act, and a scripture on moksha. Viveka Chudamani is a scripture solely on moksha. Moksha means liberation, freedom. Moksha means freedom from experience, freedom from the person that you think you are, limitlessness, understanding yourself as limitless awareness. That text is for a qualified person who only is interested in freedom. That's why it only discusses freedom, and it tells you how to attain freedom. It gives you a methodology, a method to actually attain the knowledge of yourself as a free, limitless being. Not just talk, idle talk. There was the method. The discrimination between the awareness, yourself, and what? All the objects appearing in your awareness, in awareness. Awareness is not your awareness, it's just awareness. It's not person. There's no, as you could see from that text, there's no persons involved in it. It's just purely a scientific text to reveal the impersonal nature of the self and its relationship to the three bodies. You're, contrary to what you may believe, you are not a specific individual person. There are no specific individual people here. There's only one self with three bodies. You are awareness with three bodies. All of the self and the three bodies were all given to you. They're all impersonal. They operate according to certain rules. Dharmas, we call them dharmas in this field. Certain rules, laws are operating here. Those bodies that you have all operate according to those rules. This is a highly impersonal view of the self. Okay? It's only advanced people can do that, because normal people just believe that what? They are this person they think they've been told they are. The person on your passport, the person on your driver's license, that's who I think I am. I think I, am this specific little individual born in a certain place with certain characteristics and so forth and so on. My mother this, my father that, my education, I did this, I went here, I did that, my job, so forth. We all think we're very specific, unique little individuals. And there's nothing wrong with that. We're not trying to kill or destroy that unique individual, that person that you think you are. We're not trying to get rid of it. We're trying to understand it. Because that person that you think you are is not non-existent. It exists in you, and it's has enough of existence to what? Motivate you to behave and act in a certain way and to receive results of your actions also. This is why the karmas that are appropriate to you as a person only come to you. Because if I go and murder somebody, the karma doesn't come to you. It comes to me. Because the Dharma field apportions results to that individual based upon that individual's identity or action. So it's important for us to understand who this person is that we think we are. And the Bhagavad Gita starts from that position. And it maintains that position more or less all along. Because what good is enlightenment except what? In terms of my own, who I am as a person. Enlightenment's for this person here. Because the self, you are already enlightened. If you know that, you don't need to listen to any more teaching. If you know that and it neutralizes your sense of doership and burns up your binding vasanas, then you don't need any more teaching. But insofar as you think you're a person, then we need to understand who this person is. So we're not just inquiring into who am I as the self, we're inquiring into who am I as a person and how this person is going to act. Because that's the big question here. That's why the scripture, the very first verse in the scripture says, Kurukshetre Dharmakshetre Yuyutsavaha. It means the conflict, the battle, the battlefield of this war they're talking about, is a battlefield of Dharma. Kurukshetre Dharmakshetre. Kshetra means a field, Dharma means Dharma. Dharma means the rules that are operating in the Dharma field and the what? The appropriate or inappropriate responses to the laws and rules that are operating in the Dharma field. If you find yourself as a person in this field of existence, then you should know how to act. So, we're going to get up close and personal here. This is not Neo-Advaita. This is not your modern teaching. Your modern teaching tells you the ego's no good, there's no doer, you don't exist, forget it. There's no teacher, there's no teaching, there's nothing to do, there's no karma, there's no dharma, there's no. You're just this. Okay, that's true, but it's not completely true. You're this plus this. You're awareness plus a body, mind, plus a person, plus an individual. So we have to understand our individuality and how to act here. Because it's through our understanding of ourselves as individual human beings that we're going to can come to appreciate ourselves as limitless, non-individual, impersonal human beings. Beings, not human beings, beings. So a complete teaching addresses this person. It does not dismiss the person. We're not trying to kill your ego. We're trying to understand the ego. The emotions, we're trying to understand how we feel, how we think, why we feel what we feel, why we think what we think, and how to respond appropriately to life situation, keeping in mind our goal, which is freedom. These things have to be discussed very, very carefully. So our psychology, the Vedanta has three portions. It covers three topics, roughly speaking. One, it has a cosmology. We discussed the cosmology earlier when we explained the creation of the what? The universe. How the universe is created, how Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas operate, how the five elements are created, how the whole physical structure that we find ourselves in is created. So we have a cosmology. A very interesting cosmology. As you can see, it was quite complex. And I just basically was showing off the teaching there. I didn't really get into all the details. When you see how every single one of these little things is hooked up here, in the material world and in the psychological world, you'd blow your mind. It's actually very sophisticated. These guys were way, way, way ahead of your physicists and all of this a long time ago. Anyway, so we have a cosmology. We also have a psychology. In other words, Vedanta has a psychology. That's the subtle body and the vasanas. We have to understand our psychology. That's extremely important. And our psychology is reasonably simple, but it's difficult to understand because it's so simple. We've got it all figured out. We're all very complicated and complex people with all kinds of problems. And which our psychological state is very often like a great big bowl of spaghetti. It's just all of this stuff all over the place and all the little bits all mingled and sloshed in there together. And it's to keep trying to kind of unravel it and straighten out our minds, you know. And so we've got a psychology here, which we've got to discuss, and the Gita's heavy on psychology. Values. We're going to talk about values. The value of values. How values affect our spirituality. So forth and so on. All the emotional stuff that needs to be. The relationship between your thoughts and your feelings. What the ego is. And so forth and so on. All this stuff has to be gone into carefully, because if you're going to work on yourself, you better have knowledge, because you're just as complex, in a way, as what? As these modern automobiles. If you're going to fix the modern automobiles, you've got to go to school and have computers to diagnose everything. Well, we're going to give you the diagnostic tools, and we're going to give you the practical tools that will help you work under the, work on this engine, this antakarna that goes inside your psyche. Because your psyche is the key to this whole thing, how you think and feel. So we've got a psychology here that's going to be explained. If you've got a whole bunch of psychological ideas, please put them on the shelf until you've heard this. Don't try to interpret what we're saying in light of your big psychology. Everybody nowadays thinks they're a psychologist. Everybody's an armchair psychologist. This is the age of psychology, actually. Since Freud, people just became obsessed with their psychology. And look at the pharmaceutical industry. It's all about your psychology. It's all about managing your feelings and thoughts with chemicals. Anyway. So we've got a psychology. This is why it's a science. We have a cosmology, we have a psychology, and we have a theology. Now, theology doesn't mean God. We could call it a God principle. And in this case, we do have a God principle. We have the self and we have God. And we're going to try to work out the relationship between awareness and God during this. We'll have to keep going at this over and over and over again. And in this case, the God principle is represented by the teacher in the text. The teacher is called Krishna. Krishna is a word. It means that which is the most attractive. Under every circumstances and every situation, that which is the most attractive thing there is Krishna. And that would be what? You. Awareness. Without awareness, nothing is beautiful. There's not any attraction taking place anywhere without awareness. So all attractions you feel are just reflections of that pure attraction, that pure light or love that is your own nature. So that's our theology. And this theology is presented, this awareness is presented in human form as an avatar. So we're going to have to deal with this concept also. It's a very interesting concept. We've got to make sense of this concept. The Vedanta, the Bhagavad Gita is one of what we call the triple canon. Triple canon means the three pillars. Vedanta is resting on three pillars. Vedanta is a means of self-knowledge. and it rests on 3 pillars. The fundamental source, the basic source for these teachings are called the Upanishads. This is where the original revelations that gave birth to this teaching occurred. Upanishad means what? It means the knowledge that destroys ignorance. It's that thing that sits the closest to you. It's actually literal, is near below sit. It's that thing that sits so close to you, the nearest thing to you, that destroys your ignorance of who you are. That means awareness, the self. So it's a revelation. The Upanishads were revelations, right, that were heard or seen by rishis. Rishis means seers. We would call them mystics today. But they weren't. Mystic is not a job. Okay? Mystic is not an identity. Everybody's a potential mystic. You can read on my autobiography. My autobiography is called Mystic by Default. Now, I'm a mystic by default. Everybody's a mystic by default if they're blessed by what? God. They've been given some vision or some revelation about the nature of reality. So, these revelations were heard or seen. Our tradition is called Shruti. Shruti means it was heard, which means that it came from the outside. It doesn't come from you. It's not from the human beings it's coming. From the outside means awareness, because awareness is outside everything in Maya. So these are things that were seen or heard. They don't come from human beings. And they don't come through human beings either, because human beings have a lot of crud, a lot of crap. And when the truth comes through a human being, it gets all murky and muddy. Tends to. You can find the truth there. You see with a lot of these modern teachers. They saw the truth, but the vehicle through which the truth came was what? Not purified. And so when you read their teachings, you find the truth and their own opinions and their own ignorance sitting side by side, all woven very tightly together. And you're innocent and you believe in them and you see their glory and their power, and you what? So you swallow everything without discrimination. So you get the truth, but also you get a whole bunch of ignorance stuck right along with it. And you don't know it. And you imagine that the ignorance is actually knowledge when it's not. So these teachings have been purified of the human aspect. There's a way in which it's done it, and that's called the sampradaya. There's a tradition that's purified the human beings out of it. The only consciousness is left revealing itself in the form of these revealing words. And it needs to be what? Unfolded according to the methodology. I'm a person that knows the methodology and can unfold it according to the method. It's nothing personal about it. I'm just like it's just a job. So there are 3 sources. This Upanishad comes. The Upanishads are books that are appended at the end of each Veda. There are 4 Vedas. Each Veda has 2 sections, a section on karma and a section on self-knowledge, enlightenment. Each Veda. There's 4 Vedas, each one has a section. And that last section is called the section on knowledge. That's called the Upanishads. And the first section is on karma. How to get what you want, how to act here. So in the Bhagavad Gita, we're going to get both karma and dharma, and we're going to get moksha. We're going to get both. The whole of the Veda is going to be compressed into this particular text. And the second pillar is Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita marries these 2 sections together. Action and knowledge together. Knowledge and experience is discussed, both of them put together. We're not separating action from knowledge here. We're putting them together and showing what the relationship between karma and what? awareness is, between what you do and who you are. And the third source of Vedanta is called the Brahma Sutras. Brahma means what? The Sutras on awareness. Brahma means consciousness or awareness. Never mind the Sanskrit. And the first sutra says, Atato Brahma Jinyasu. Jinyasu means an inquiry into Brahman, into the self. And that you don't have to worry about. That's for the heavy hitters. That's for people who are already realized. Basically for teachers. Basically for people who are wielding the means of knowledge. There all the arguments against the teachings of the Upanishad are run through systematically and exhaustively and dismissed with reference to the vision of non-duality that appears in the source text, the Upanishads. That was written by a great sage named Badarayana. And it'll knock your socks off. You can't. I tell you, you can't even get into it. So don't try. Bhagavad Gita is made for us normal people, not for the jnanis, not for the sages. The sages read the Brahma Sutras. There's a great sage in Chennai right now who's just completed 350 hours of talks on the Brahma Sutras. He's got about 2,000 Madrasi Brahmins who he's been teaching for years, and he's just finished those talks solely on the Brahma Sutras. He manufactures enlightened people like, you know, they manufacture ice cream in a factory. He's a great sage. So these are the three sources: Brahma Sutras, Bhagavad Gita, and the Upanishads. Then underneath that, because there are certain apparent contradictions in the source material. This is why you can't really read it. If you read it, just take a book and try to read it, you won't get it. Because there are things that are apparently contradictory. They're not actually contradictions, but you can't work them out. So there's a subsidiary body of literature under there called the Bhashya literature. These are commentaries and statements by great Mahatmas and sages who resolve the apparent contradictions that are there in the source material. So there's all, and then under that another body of literature and so forth and so on. And you get down a ways, and then you got the Puranas and so forth with a mythological literature, which expresses this knowledge, this Vedic knowledge, in human terms. Makes it personal, even though it's like gods and demons and so forth. And one of those texts is the Bhagavad Gita. That's a Puranic text. Purana means the age after the Vedic age. It came after the Vedic age. And it's called an Itihasa. It means it's a text that has a certain kind of apparently historical validity. Although we're not able to determine whether or not this battle that they're talking about here happened. This is a great battle, a great war. It claims it took place in near Delhi, in a place called Hastinapura, north of Delhi. And they claim that the Indians basically believe that it did happen in this way. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't, we don't know. There was no TV there, no cell phones to, you know. So, and to make it clear what this war is about, did you read in the internet the other day that a court in Siberia had ruled that the Bhagavad Gita was to be banned in Russia because it was an incitement to violence? It was a, Did you read that? Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting. The courts, you know who was behind that? It was the Russian Orthodox Church, obviously, because they did not take this Gita as what? A Dharma Shastra. Actually, it is quite the contrary. It's not about killing at all. Quite the contrary. It's not about killing. It's about how to act in life. It's about how any normal human being should be acting in a certain situation. It's a Dharma Shastra, and that's why the very first says, Kurukshetri Dharma Kshetri Yuyutsavaha. The war is what? The war, this physical war that they're talking about here, is really a battlefield. This battlefield is a battlefield of Dharma. Now, what is this battlefield of Dharma? My own mind. So the war here is the war that's going on in my own mind all the time. There's always a conflict in every human mind. Always. About what to do. Isn't there? If you have fears and desires, and what human being doesn't have fears and desires? He or she is always, what? Uncertain about what to do. What's next? What should I do next? How should I respond to this situation? Life is constantly throwing at us circumstances. And we're required to respond to those circumstances. Is that right? Yeah. If you don't respond, you're in trouble. And if you respond inappropriately, you're in trouble. Only if you respond appropriately to life, what? Does life flow smoothly and easily, and do you what? Achieve what you want in this life. And if I'm conflicted in my mind, I can't be clear about how I'm meant to respond or act here in life. So, and I am conflicted. Why? Why am I conflicted? Because I'm not clear about who I am. If you're not clear about who you are, then you will be conflicted. So, the question of action is definitely related to the question of the knowledge of who I am. A person who knows who they are has no karmic problems. There are no karmic problems, no dharmic problems for a person who knows who they are. We just finished that at the end of the text yesterday. When the text described what an enlightened person was. And there what? It said what in that text? It said, they're not affected by karma. Those people don't have an action or a reaction problem. They don't have that. It's only people who don't know who they are, who take themselves to be this limited entity here, that have a problem. So we've got to discuss this. We've got to figure out where the problem's coming from and what we can do about it. You can do something about your psychological problems. Not just through knowledge, but through action. This is why we're going to discuss yoga, because yoga is about sorting your psychological problems out. Dealing with and healing your psyche, your mind, your emotions. That's what yoga is. It's for cleaning up, dealing with this stuff. So this is a yoga shastra, this is a Vedanta shastra, this is a Dharma shastra, scripture means. These are the topics that occur in this text. There's no mention of it in the previous text, as you can see. The previous text assumes that you didn't have any psychological issues. That's for the people who don't have psychological issues. All they need to do is get the method of discrimination, and they're on the bus. They'll definitely get enlightened if they don't have those issues and they're dedicated to this knowledge and the application of the knowledge. They'll definitely get enlightened. So this Bhagavad Gita presents self-knowledge in a human context. It's the idea. And we're meant to identify, and you will identify, we're meant to identify with the human being here. This human being is every person. It's that part of you that human part of you that has these conflicts, has these doubts, and has these questions, these existential questions that need to be handled. And we're, all of us here are what? We're here because of this existential question. That's why we're here. We want to know why I'm here. What is this world all about? What is this weird meat tube that I'm stuck in? Huh? Huh? Isn't it? You know, we want to know, what is love? What is freedom? These are questions that people like us ask. Out on the street, nobody's asking these questions. But we're here to sort this out, and that's what this scripture is about. The very fact that it's a scripture means that it works for sorting it out. Because if it didn't work, it would have been discarded a long time ago. It would be like any one of the third-rate philosophies that become popular. I don't know, if in every age. In every age there's always a few philosophies that come up and become popular, and then they just die and disappear. Because they're not really, they're topically relevant, but they're not really relevant to the basic existential needs of the people, so they dissolve and disappear. But this teaching continues to thrive nowadays. It's been thriving forever in India. From way, way back, for thousands of years, this teaching has been has worked, and it has worked, and it's the reason why you're sitting here. The reason you're sitting here is because of this teaching. You may not know it, but this is behind the whole of Indian culture, and those amazing vibrations you feel, and that strange spirituality that comes to you, and that sense of being home and all of that comes directly from here. It's been here so long, it's worked its way into the culture, into the people, and you can pick up on that feeling or that energy or that vibration of this knowledge all around you, in spite of the misery of the circumstances here. So this particular now remember, this is a literary or dramatic device, this teaching. It's meant to be looked at symbolically. The things that the statements here, and so that, this is not about a real war. I want to get this very clear. The Russians and the materialists will think it's about a real war, and they'll think that Krishna is telling Arjuna to go and kill these people he likes, in fact. Which is, that's obviously not what this is about at all. So don't think that this is just a symbol of the war that's going on in you. That's all it is. And to make it more personal and more dramatic, and more powerful, this teaching is presented personally in this way. It's not an impersonal teaching like the Vivekachudamani. Now here's the situation. That we want to sort of set up this whole, it's a setup. So we want to set up the scene, the big picture, and then we'll get down to the specifics after the break. The big picture, the situation that produced this war was a big party. There was two groups of people. They were cousins. Their fathers were the head of came from the same father, and they were two clans, and they all knew each other, and more or less they liked each other pretty much. There were all the same kinds of small petty jealousies and rivalries and problems that come wherever you have human beings, but basically these people got together and had a big party just to have a good time. And there was, dancing girls and wine and food and, and games. They were playing all kinds of games. And they were princes. On both sides, these were powerful people. These were, extremely powerful people. They were at the top of the caste system. They were, kings and rulers, basically, and warriors. They were noble people, most of them were noble people. There were a few scoundrels, as there is in every situation. And during this, everybody got a little lightheaded, was having a good time. They decided to play a game of dice. That's a gamble. They all had plenty of money. And the good guys on the one side and the bad guys on the other will. Good guys means the positive thoughts in your mind, and the bad guys means the negative thoughts in your mind. Okay? There's a part of your mind that's coming out of ignorance, and there's a part of your mind that's coming out of truth. And both the light and the dark are playing in your mind. The good stuff and the bad stuff are playing in everybody's mind. And it's been symbolized as these two groups of people. And they start gambling on the one clan and the other clan. They start gambling, putting up cattle and, their cars and houses and money and gold and all that sort of stuff. And they're gambling back and forth. And on the one side is this guy called Duryodhana. Duryodhana, dur means hard. Our word durable comes from that. Or obdurate. It means hard. This guy, his name is Duryodhana. He's very jealous. And he's the son of a blind king, who's the head of the whole thing. His father's blind. That blindness means Maya. Maya means, it's just a symbol. He's a blind king. He's actually the self, meaning a king. The self is the king of being, sitting on the inner throne. So the self, you are the king. But when you're blind, what do? You give birth to this hard, self-centered, greedy, violent, duplicitous person. This ego, this fearful, angry person comes out when you're blind to yourself. A dysfunctional person. And Duryodhana is definitely dysfunctional. And he's got issues with his cousins. Yudhishthira, who's the head of the other clan, he's a noble person. He's pure-minded. He's sattvic. He follows Dharma. He's a really good guy. And so Duryodhana's got issues with him, and he wants to get all his wealth so he can get the power. Because he's into power. This is the part of yourself that wants power. And don't say you don't want power. Every relationship, there's a huge power component in it. Believe me. In every relationship. And that's that part of you that wants power. Why does that part of you want power? Because you feel powerless. You feel weak. Unless he's got all this stuff, he doesn't feel secure. So he wants to get all his stuff from the other guys so that he'll feel more powerful and secure. That's his psychology. Everybody's got this psychology. So they both arrived at the same time. Arjuna stood at the feet of Krishna, and Duryodhana stood at the head. So that when Krishna woke up, he couldn't see Duryodhana, he saw Arjuna. And he said, I know why you've come. Since I saw Arjuna first, he can have first choice. What do you think is going through Duryodhana's mind? Panic. He thinks my goose is cooked. Because he does not understand Arjuna. He doesn't understand it. So his heart just sinks. And Arjuna says, I choose you, Lord. Now he's not going to get anybody who's going to fight for him. he's not going to get the army. So on the material level, on the level of Maya, in the Maya world where this is taking place, there's no advantage to him. In terms of the values of the war in that situation, there's no advantage for him to choose like that. He's not going to get... Krishna was a great war fighter. No one could defeat Krishna. In fact, Krishna was the self, and people suspected that he was an incarnation, which he was. So, but he said he wasn't going to fight, because the self isn't going to fight. The self doesn't care. Well, it cares, but it doesn't care. But it's not going to be directly involved in the battle of life. It's going to be indirectly involved. Why? Because everything in this projection, this Maya world, is what? Nothing but awareness appearing in a certain form. So what? It is involved, but it's not involved. Remember the second to the last verse we had said that everything in the projection is nothing but what? The self. So this whole thing is actually the self, this Maya world. So he says, I choose you, Lord, and Duryodhana suddenly is in seventh heaven. He gets the big army, and he walks away, thank you very much, I take the army, see you later. Now why does Arjuna do this? Because Arjuna believes in what? Some higher force or power that he knows is influencing events. He has a belief in what we call devam. Worldly people would call it luck. Worldly people call it luck. They say, why are some people lucky and why am I not lucky? Huh? That's because those lucky people, they what? They've earned that grace and that luck by their behavior. And so what? The self comes down on them, blesses them in a certain way. Grace is earned, mind you. Grace doesn't just happen by accident. The grace is earned. The people who are lucky people are people who earned it. Believe me. It doesn't look like that because you can't tell what actions they've done to invoke the self. But when you invoke the self by following Dharma and doing the right actions, it jumps on your side and starts making things work for you. And he knew that. He didn't know who Krishna was exactly. But he had that feeling, that bhakti, that there was something bigger. And he heard the stories about Krishna, that maybe he was an incarnation. He'd seen these holy men and these sadhus all around. He thought maybe, and Arjuna was the top guy in war. Nobody had defeated Arjuna. He was really the top guy. And so he was pretty confident of his skills, and he knew he could count on his army. He had 4 brothers, and they were all great warriors. And all the other men who were behind him were good people. He could count on them. So even though they were outnumbered, he knew the art of war, and he'd been taught by the top guy in the world, the top warrior of all, who, ironically, was on Duryodhana's side. In other words, his guru, who taught him all the mantras and all of the weapons, the arrows were mantras. So we're talking ideas here. In any case, everything he'd learned about the art of war, he'd learned from the guru, who is actually the general leading Duryodhana's army. And he's going to have to kill his guru, who he loves like anything, because the guru had given him everything. And the guru was a good guy, but he owed a debt of gratitude. He owed a debt to Duryodhana's father, so Dharma forced him in that position. And because he was a dharmi, because he followed Dharma and did what was right, even though he didn't want it that way, he was going to fight and he was going to do a 100% good job, and he was going to have to kill his disciple. And he was the only one who had been given a boon that he could die at. He could choose the time and the place of his death. So it was going to be very difficult for Arjuna to kill him, not just because he was so powerful and so well protected by his karma, his good karma, his dharma, but because Arjuna loved that guy. And there were a lot of guys in the opposing army also that he liked, that were good friends, and all of them were good warriors. They were all accomplished warriors. Some of them were amazing. Karna was as good as Arjuna in war. And he had a grudge. So there's all kind. We won't get into the details because there's a lot more. I mean, I could talk for a couple of days on all the psychological stuff that's going on behind this war, and how everybody knows everybody and all the karmas, and it goes way back into the births. You know, and it talks about the previous lives of all these warriors and these people who are playing there, and how those things that happened in previous lives influence their characters and their decisions here. So you get a picture, like an opening out of the picture, of this huge picture of reality. And in it is this battlefield is taking place here. And you've got this situation where Arjuna is confronted with this terrible situation. To do what's right and to get back in his land and establish dharma, he's going to have to kill people he loves and respects. So he wants a little something extra on his side, and it's not physical force. He wants a spiritual power on his side. And so Krishna says to him, okay, you've chosen me, what do you want me to do? What should I do? You got me, big deal. So now tell me what I've got to do. And Arjuna said, you can drive my chariot. That's a funny relationship between a teacher and a student, isn't it? Huh? The student stands up behind and tells the teacher what to do. How about that? Huh? The teachers, modern teachers, they're all sitting up on their thrones. And they've got you down below. And they're raining the truth on you to make you feel small, basically, and make themselves feel big. It's never a one-on-one. Or occasionally maybe it is. Or they try to make it look like a one-on-one by putting a hot seat there to make it look like they're actually people. But basically, they feel superior to you and you're ignorant, and they're going to give you something. But in this model of teaching, it's called Sakya Bhava. Bhava means a mood or the relationship or the psychology that's operating in any relationship. It's called a bhava. This is called Sakya Bhava. This is the relationship of friendship. In other words, Krishna and Arjuna are friends. And the Guru's got self-knowledge. He's going to give Arjuna this knowledge. But he's going to do it what? As a friend. This is why Vedanta is so amazing. Because the Guru's not sitting up on top raining down the truth. The Guru's going to relate to you directly as a friend. And you can actually tell the Guru some things. Because they're real people. They're not figureheads. They're not cooked up images and icons that are meant to invoke the smallness in you and the power in them. It's just a real honest communication, because Arjuna's going to say, go there, do this, do that. Now why does he choose, he could have got another driver, but obviously what? You want the self-drive in your life, don't you? And you want to what? Why does he put him in that position? Because he wants to see Krishna all the time. Because if he's standing in front of him and the battle's out there, he can't help but see Krishna all the time. What does that mean? If you're going to win this battlefield of life, you better keep your eye on Krishna, on yourself. You better keep your eye on the teacher and the teaching. That's the idea. So, everybody got together. The days, it's all happening. And in those days, war was like It wasn't like a bunch of cowardly, stupid Americans sitting in these air-conditioned things, in Utah and elsewhere around the world, looking at computer screens, that are got video feeds from drones and blowing up people out of the sky. Just, it wasn't like that. These were real men, and they faced off against each other, and they fought like crazy, and they fought to the death. And it was war. It was serious war. It was good war. It was an honest war. It wasn't these chicken shit wars that we have nowadays, where you want to kill everybody, but you don't want to get killed. No, really, it was.
Yeah, and the leaders sit at home.
What's that?
And the leaders sit at home.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And the ladies said, no, everybody was there. The wives were there, the kids were there, the grannies were there, all the children were there. They had the food tents, and they had the medical tents, and it was all set up. They were going to do it. It was a battle of what? Dharma. And what has to happen here is that what? The Dharma has to be reestablished. If the Dharma is not, if the society is not a Dharmic society, what? Our goose is cooked. We're finished. We cannot pursue our spirituality here. We'll all be packing weapons. Can you imagine India without the spirituality? Can you imagine it? You cannot. You would carry weapons, and you'd have bodyguards, and you'd be looking around. This would not be a good place to be. Still, Dharma's still operating here. Oh, there's all kinds of little fiddles and cheats and stuff like that. But, basically, how is it that 1.2 billion people can exist on a piece of property the size of a third the size of the United States, and basically handle their poverty and their misery better than we do our prosperity? How is that? How do they manage that? Because they follow Dharma. Because Dharma is here. That's what. So this Dharma has got to be established. And Krishna has come to reestablish it. You're going to see. That's why Krishna has appeared here. That's why the Self has appeared here in the form of this king called Krishna. And his duty is to get rid of this Duryodhana. The duty is what? To get rid of that part of yourself that's full of fear and desire, and that what? There's nothing wrong with fearing, and there's nothing wrong with desiring, mind you. That's part of your psyche. Don't try, I'm going to get rid of all my desires. I'm going to get rid of all my fears. No, fears and desires are built in. It's not up to you. It's just that when your fears and your desires are too overpowering, what will you do? You'll break the rules. In other words, your subjective stuff will start impacting on everybody else. And Dharma is a mutual expectation of all people for a certain kind of behavior. I don't injure you because I know what it feels like to be injured. I don't lie to you because I don't want to be lied to. I don't cheat you because I don't want to be cheated. Even a thief knows what Dharma is, because a thief, what? Hides his own possessions. Isn't it? Hides the things that he's stolen. He thinks they're his, and he protects himself. So Dharma is built in here, and it needs to be what? It needs to be supported. And how is it supported? If you don't support it by your actions, what happens? Adharma takes over. In other words, the worst part of yourself comes out. And you start operating out of the what? The selfish, greedy, fearful, ugly part of yourself. So you need to constantly what? Take a stand as a righteous person and do the right thing all the time. And that keeps just Dharma going. And if you don't, you got the situation that we're in right now in the world. You've got like the total, the destruction of the environment. Look at the world we're living in now. Look at how we're destroying this planet. Huh? It's awful. That whole Avatar movie was about that, between the forces of Dharma and the forces of Adharma. That's all Avatar was about. It came from came from the Puranic stories. The Avatar is blue, it means Krishna. It's all that. It's all taken totally from this culture. And unless you come down on the basis of that, then what? The self is going to what? Disappear out of the culture, and all you're going to have here is war and conflict all the time. So this principle needs to be supported, and Arjuna and his clan represent that power in the big picture, and Duryodhana represents the power of adharma. Adharma means you cut corners, you cheat, you lie. And there's all kinds of clever ways you can cheat and lie that make it look like you're not cheating and lying. Believe me. And this is where total integrity is required on the spiritual path, particularly in the spiritual path. So, this is the problem. This is the situation. And so, everything's all set up. Duryodhana's army is on this side. Arjuna and his brothers are on this side. There's a big no man's land in the center. And Arjuna tells Krishna, he says, hey, drive me out into the center of this thing so I can have a look at these guys. I want to see who I'm fighting. I want to see how their battalions are arranged. I want to try to see what's going on here and get a better picture of how to conduct this battle. Because Arjuna's got to he's got to organize all his things. He's the general, he's the strategist, and he's got to make sure it's all working so that he can prevail. Arjuna's not a coward. Arjuna's not a coward. He's a brave man. He's never been defeated in battle, and he doesn't mind dying. Dying's not a problem for him. None of these guys mind dying, actually. They're not wusses. They're dharmis. They're going to follow their nature, and if you have to fall on your sword, they'll fall on their sword. If you have to die, it's better to die what? Doing the right thing than to live doing the wrong thing. This is how they feel. So all of them are like that, and they're going to fight to the death. So he drives out in the front, and who does he see commanding the opposing army? Bhishma. Bhishma was his guru. Bhishma was the granddaddy of the lot. Everybody admired and respected him. He had earned the respect of everybody in the whole kingdom. And he's standing there, and he's not sentimental. He knows he's a warrior, and he understands who Arjuna is. He's given Arjuna all this knowledge. He's taught him the art of war, but he's not sentimental. I've got to do my duty. If I have to kill Arjuna, I have to kill Arjuna. That's it. So he's just standing there. He's ready to fight. But Arjuna, he sees Bhishma there, and he gets all emotional and soft and fuzzy and warm. He gets compassionate. And he thinks, I can't do this. This is not possible. I love that man. That man gave me everything. How could I possibly kill him? And look at these other men here. They're all noble people. He says, that's not going to work for me. Not going to work. And he collapses. He just gets so emotional, he just starts shaking, and he just sits down, puts down his bow, and says, I'm not going to fight. Arjuna, to Arjuna, who was overwhelmed with compassion, distressed and tearful, Krishna spoke the following words. To behave like this is not becoming for a righteous man. It does not enhance your reputation, nor does it lead to heaven. A successful warrior does not give in to unmanliness. It does not benefit you. Overcome this emotional state, get up and fight. Arjuna wants, He wants Krishna there, huh? And Krishna's not telling him what he wants to hear. Krishna's not, huh? In fact, Krishna's telling you wuss, huh? You coward, huh? This is not appropriate behavior here. Is it appropriate behavior? Huh? Is it appropriate? We're going to see why it's inappropriate. Yeah, oh yeah, it's appropriate because he doesn't want to kill anybody because he's a good boy. And those are nice people over there. And you're not supposed to kill anybody. That's bad. Huh? You know, our sympathy is immediately with Arjuna, isn't it? Huh? Because he's such a nice, emotional guy. He just cares so much. He's such a warm, fuzzy feeling person. Huh? And we're spiritual. We're warm, fuzzy, and feeling people too, aren't we? Huh? Yeah, you're not supposed to say anything naughty or do anything bad. You're just supposed to love everybody and hug everybody. So, Krishna's wrong. That's how we think. Because we're all from liberal democracies. And you can't even say anything naughty or you're a bad person. Right? Nowadays, I'm one of the few that doesn't care what people think, so I just say things. But you're not even supposed to suggest that anybody's an idiot. Because it's not kind, it's not spiritual, it's not warm and fuzzy. Anyway, so he says, get off your butt and fight those guys. Come on, man up. Arjuna replied, O destroyer of demons, how can I fight against these men who are worthy of worship? It would be better to beg for food than to kill these exalted men who taught me everything I know. Whatever wealth and pleasure I will gain from this war would be stained with blood. It is impossible to tell whether it is better if we should conquer them or they should conquer us. How can we continue to live once we have slain these brave men facing us? There's a really clever bit here that you wouldn't get. Remember on verse 4 it says, O destroyer of demons. Why does Arjuna address Krishna as, the word is Madhusudana. It means destroyer of demons. The word Madhu means honey or sweet. And Madhusudana means who kills the sweetness. What is the sweetest thing? Your ego. So what all Krishna's done here in his incarnation, Krishna was famous in his incarnation because he just killed demons. That was all he killed. If you read the Leelas of Krishna, starting from when he was just a kid, just a little baby. I mean, when he was a little baby suckling on his mother's breast, his uncle, who was a bad guy, Ganamaya, another Duryodhana, wants to get rid of Krishna, wants to kill him. So he puts up this prostitute, and this prostitute, her blood is poison. Okay, and there's no blood in her veins; it's just poison. And she's really beautiful. So the uncle says, "Hey, now that this Krishna's been born, I've got to get rid of him. I'll tell you what, I'll pay you very nicely. You go and get a job as a nursemaid there. Because you're beautiful and charming and everything, and you've got beautiful breasts, and they're full of milk, they'll hire you. Don't worry. His parents need a good nursemaid. And then when he suckles on you, he'll suckle your milk, and you'll just be what? He'll die. Because her whole body was full of poison. She was called Putana. And so Putana goes and applies for the job, and she gets the job. And so she takes Krishna in her arms to suckle him, but Krishna is the self. So Krishna understands who this Putana is, and so he suckles her, but he suckles all the poison and kills her. Just her life is full of poison. He just suckles it, drinks it all, and what? Transforms it into what? Love or light, whatever you want to call it. He's not bothered at all, and she dies. It means the self will suck out all your poison. Surrender to the self and it will suck out all those poisonous vasanas. So Krishna just killed a whole bunch of demons. So Arjuna's he's tweaking Krishna a little bit. He said, okay, you kill demons, but hey, what about me? I got to kill real people here. You're a demon killer, but I got to kill real people. These are real people. Those are just demons. Anybody can kill a demon. That's all fine. That's easy to kill demons. But what about real people? They're not bad people. They're brave men facing us. He says, even if I were to obtain an unrivaled and prosperous kingdom by winning this war, I do not see anything that will take away this pain that disturbs my senses. He just can't do it. He's broken down. He's an emotional wreck. He's totally confused. He doesn't know what to do. He knows he's supposed to do this, but he can't do it because of his sympathy. He's a sattvic person in his thinking. He's rajasic as a rajasic warrior, but his thinking, his heart is sattvic. He's pure. He's got a tender heart. See, a warrior should have what? Should have compassion. A true warrior should have compassion, just like a true jnani or a sage should have wisdom. Has wisdom should have humility. That's character, and Arjuna had that. A wise person, generally wise people are arrogant. They don't have real character. They may know something, but they all think they're very smart and arrogant. But a wise person that has humility, that's a stand-up person. That's a reasonable person. That's somebody you can love. That's somebody you can trust. So Arjuna's strength and his power is what? Tempered by what? Sympathy. He's not just going to kill him. It's not a blood thing here. He's a conscious being, and he understands the situation here. He's a real human being. And he's got himself in a pickle now. He says, you're right. I'm emotional and confused. See, that when you come to this point, everybody's come to this point in their life, isn't they? They hit bottom. You're emotional, you're confused. You don't know which way to go. You don't know. You can't decide. It's out of your hands. It happened to me when I was 25. I hit bottom. And then Krishna, or the self, came into my life in a way I couldn't believe it. It's amazing. Because I hit bottom. I didn't know where to go. I was just stuck. And Arjuna's stuck here. The dark night of the soul. He can't move forward. He can't go backwards. He just collapses. This emotional collapse that we have. But he knows he's collapsed, and what? He's made a choice already to get Krishna on his side. So what does he do? He surrenders. He says, I am your student. I take refuge in you. You tell me what to do. He said, Vedanta, you're not going to study Vedanta and get it. You need to be taught. Who you are is you're not going to figure it out on your own. You need to be taught. I'm just talking from my own experience. I'm a smart guy. I've been smart ever since I was born. But it didn't do me one damn bit of good. I tell you. It did me no good. I just went through life getting everything I wanted, doing everybody said, oh, pat me on the back, very intelligent and all that. But when I came against this existential problem, all my brain power was useless. I couldn't work my way out of my life on my own. Didn't work. And when I realized that, I let go. On that very day, my teacher came into my life. The very day that I just let go of the whole thing, trying to sort it out on my own, I just walked away from the whole spiritual thing, trying to figure it out, trying to get enlightened. I said, to hell with this, I'm just going to be a normal guy, forget it. That very day, teacher came into my life. In a very miraculous kind of way. It doesn't have to be miraculous, mind you. In my case, it was miraculous. So he knew he was confused, And he wants guidance. This is a beautiful moment here, where this great warrior surrenders to his teacher. He says, tell me what I should do. Now, a guru is not going to tell you generally what to do. A guru is somebody who gives you knowledge and then you figure out what you're going to do. But in this case, Arjuna doesn't have knowledge. Although Krishna is going to try to give it to him. You're going to see what happens when he tries to give himself knowledge. The great warrior then said, I shall not fight, and I fell silent. Now the ball's in Krishna's court. And tomorrow, we will see what Krishna had to say.